Good, happy Friday morning, May 29, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Friday morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Friday morning, so let's begin. First up, health officials announced 9 additional deaths related to COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 101 new cases, 2 deaths, individuals younger than 60 years of age. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
As the PGA Tour gets back into the swing of things, at ServPro, we're helping.
And tonight, 101 new cases of COVID-19 are being confirmed here in New Hampshire. I'm Tom Griffith. That brings total known cases now to more than 4,300. 1,424 of those are current cases. There are 9 new deaths to report today, including 2 people under the age of 60. 6 of those deaths are connected to long-term care facilities. Now, since the pandemic began, 232 people in New Hampshire have died. That is about 5% of the people who tested positive.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your COVID-19 in New Hampshire, what you need to know information. And here is a look at that COVID-19 in New Hampshire, what you need to know information. There are 4,386 number of people in New Hampshire who have tested positive for COVID-19. 1,768,461 number of people in the United States who have tested positive. 232 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 438 number of people who have been hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire. And 103,330 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. And here's a look at this map of New Hampshire right here. These are where current cases of COVID-19 are. Manchester, 442. This map of New Hampshire right here shows you where total cases of COVID-19 are. Manchester, 1109. Now let's take a look at these 3 graphs here. Let's start with the first graph. New cases each day in New Hampshire. In the purple, daily new positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, new hospitalizations. In the red, deaths. Now let's take a look at this chart here, current cases. In the purple, total current COVID-19 cases, and in the orange, current hospitalizations. And let's take a look at this chart here, total cases. In the purple, total positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, total hospitalizations. In the red, deaths. And in the blue, recovered. And now let's take a look at this chart here, age group of cases. Female and male of cases. Risk information. And now let's take a look at this chart here, race/ethnicity of cases. Hospitalizations. Deaths. And percent of New Hampshire population. And again, your common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, chills, and difficult breathing. how it spreads, and prevention tips. And be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of your COVID-19 information. So new, expect stay-at-home order to continue. Governor says health officials keeping eye on key COVID-19 numbers. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
As the PGA Tour gets back into the swing of things, at ServPro, we're helping.
The end of the month and the potential expiration of stay-at-home 2.0 looming. Governor Chris Sununu says Granite Staters should expect the stay-at-home order to remain in place for a little while longer.
We're anticipating the stay-at-home order to stay in place at least for a couple more weeks. We're not going to do it in months at a time, but really do it a couple weeks at a time and kind of mesh it with how we're doing with our reopening process.
While New Hampshire has spent the month of May cracking open the door week by week to more public and economic activity, the governor says it's important to remember the state is still in a pandemic, and COVID-19 doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon.
New Hampshire is going to be dealing with the COVID crisis for a long time. There's just no two ways about that. We have to be very careful how we open. We have to be very vigilant to stay on top of the social distancing, the good practices that we've put in place that has helped keep our numbers down.
Today, the governor announced 2 new steps in the coronavirus response. He's calling on the Trump administration to address funding formulas he believes have shortchanged frontline hospitals in Manchester and Nashua. He's also forming a COVID-19 equity response team to examine the issue of the pandemic hitting minority communities in a disproportionate way.
We've seen some information in other parts of the country, but what are the realities here in terms of that disparity that may exist for minorities in dealing with the COVID crisis? And then based on that data, what are some of the action items that we can take to break down those barriers?
And the governor is also enthusiastically welcoming news from the White House that it will extend the deployment of the National Guard, as those guardsmen and women have become a crucial part of the pandemic response here in New Hampshire. Reporting live in Concord, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Dow falls for the first time in 3 days, drops 100 points on U.S.-China tension. Stocks closed lower on Thursday, easing solid gains from earlier in the day, after President Trump said he would be giving a news conference Friday regarding China. Trump veers Twitter. President Trump signed an executive order targeting Twitter and other social media giants after Twitter called 2 of his tweets potentially misleading. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
All of this was playing out today. President Trump was waging war with Twitter after they fact-checked 2 of his tweets, saying Twitter shouldn't be allowed to do that, signing an executive order. Tonight, Twitter says it will keep doing it, and John Carl, who we saw earlier here, was following this as well today.
President Trump hit back at Twitter today, accusing them of censoring conservative voices after the social media giant took the extraordinary step of attaching fact checks to 2 of the president's tweets filled with false information.
They try to silence views that they disagree with by selectively applying a fact check, F-A-C-T, fact check.
The president signed an executive order aimed at stripping away legal protections from social networks so they could be sued or punished for the content their users post. But it's not clear the president has power to do that unless Congress changes the law. And he himself acknowledged he will face immediate legal challenge.
I'm sure they'll be doing a lawsuit.
The president was infuriated when Twitter put bright blue fact-check warnings on 2 of his tweets about voting by mail, including one where he declared there is no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Today, he repeated his false claims.
But when they send out, like in California, millions and millions of ballots to anybody that's breathing, anybody in California that's breathing gets a ballot.
But, Mr. President, that's not true. You know Gavin Newsom, Governor Newsom, has not sent ballots out to everybody in California. They're only going to registered voters.
How many are
So what your tweet said was not wrong. It was not correct. It was wrong.
Okay. Oh, really?
Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey tweeted, quote, "We'll continue to point out incorrect or disputed information about elections globally." But from Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, a different message.
But I don't think that Facebook or internet platforms in general should be arbiters of truth.
As the president has waged his battle with Twitter, yesterday the U.S. passed a grim milestone: 100,000 Americans dead from COVID-19. Amidst an avalanche of tweets on other matters, the president noted the milestone in a single tweet this morning. To all of the families and friends of those who have passed, I want to extend my heartfelt sympathy and love for everything that these great people stood for and represent. God be with you.
I asked the president if, considering all his criticism of Twitter, he would consider deleting his Twitter account. He made it clear that is not going to happen. After all, David, he has more than 80 million followers, and he clearly likes communicating with them.
That's right, he plans.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. Goodbye, everyone.